Your doctor has almost certainly never handed you a list of snacks and said, "These are the ones your kidneys will thank you for." And I want to tell you why that conversation never happens. Because the reason tells you everything about how the system works. A typical nephrology follow-up lasts somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. There is a billing code for adjusting your blood pressure medication. There is a billing code for ordering your next round of labs. But there is no billing code, none at all, for the 10 unhurried minutes it would take to walk you through what you should actually be eating between meals. So that conversation gets pushed aside. Every single time. It is one of the most important discussions in kidney care, and it almost never fits inside the appointment. I've spent over 2 decades in internal medicine, and in that time, I've sat across from hundreds of patients over the age of 60. I've watched their lab numbers drift in the wrong direction, visit after visit, while they looked back at me with the same quiet, frustrated question in their eyes. Is there anything I can actually do about this myself? There is. And that's exactly why I'm here today. I'm going to give you 5 completely ordinary snacks. The kind you can find sitting on the shelf of whatever grocery store you already drive to every week. And I'm not just going to name them and move on. I'm going to show you exactly why each one works at the level of the microscopic filters inside your kidneys. I'll walk you through exactly how to prepare each one so it genuinely helps your kidneys instead of quietly making things worse. And I'm going to expose the snacking mistakes I watch well-meaning, careful people make week after week. Mistakes that are silently working against their kidneys without them having the slightest idea. I would bet that at least half of what you hear in the next few minutes is something no one has ever explained to you before. But before we take a single step further, I want to be completely straight with you. Because you have been promised things before. By websites, by supplement companies, by people on the internet who have no business giving you medical advice. I'm not going to tell you that these 5 snacks will cure kidney disease. I'm not going to tell you they'll reverse the damage, or magically bring your numbers back to where they were 10 years ago. That would be a lie. And if I told you that, you'd be absolutely right to close this video and never come back. What I'm going to tell you is something quieter, something far more honest, and something backed by real science. The food you put into your body, when it's chosen carefully and prepared correctly, genuinely changes how hard your kidneys have to work every single day. And a kidney that works a little less hard is a kidney that holds its ground for longer. That's not a miracle claim. That is basic physiology. And it is supported by kidney specialists at the National Institutes of Health, along with kidney nutrition guidance published by the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm not selling you a supplement. I'm not promoting a product. There is nothing to buy here except groceries. Now let me tell you exactly who I made this for. If your last blood test showed your creatinine creeping up past 1.2, past 1.5, maybe even higher, if a doctor has used the word stage 3 with you, maybe even stage 4, if you find yourself getting out of bed 2, 3, even 4 times every single night to use the bathroom, and you started dreading what used to be a good night's sleep, you are exactly the person I'm talking to. And here's the plan so you know it's worth staying until the very end. First, in about 90 seconds, I'm going to explain what creatinine actually is and why that number on your lab report keeps climbing. Because once you understand that one concept, every single one of these 5 snacks will make complete, logical sense. Then we'll go through all 5, one by one. By the time we're finished, you'll know which 5 snacks to buy this week, exactly how to prepare each one so it works for your kidneys instead of against them, and you'll understand your own lab report better than you ever have before. So let's start with the explanation that almost nobody ever gives you. Creatinine is a waste product. Every single time your muscles do their job, whether you're walking across the room or simply gripping a coffee cup, they burn a fuel called creatine for energy. Creatinine is the leftover ash from that process. It circulates through your bloodstream until your kidneys filter it out and send it into your urine. In a healthy body, creatinine is being produced all day long and cleared all day long, which keeps the level in your blood low and steady. Your kidneys perform this filtering through roughly 1 million microscopic filters each. Those filters have a name worth remembering. Nephrons. When nephrons become damaged, whether from years of high blood sugar, blood pressure that stayed elevated for too long, or the slow, quiet progression of chronic kidney disease, that filtering process begins to slow down. The creatinine your body keeps producing every hour of every day is no longer being cleared as quickly as it's being made. So it starts building up in your bloodstream. That's when your lab reports begin showing numbers like 1.5, 1.8, 2.0, and climbing. Now stay with me, because this next part changes everything. That creatinine number on your lab report doesn't just reflect how damaged your kidney filters are. It also responds to 2 things that are completely within your influence. Every single day. First, how much waste you're asking your kidneys to clear in the first place. Second, how much ongoing damage those filters are receiving from inflammation and from the blood vessels that supply them. Each of these 5 snacks works on one of those 2 levers. Either it reduces the waste your kidneys have to filter, or it reduces the damage being done to the filters themselves. Less waste to filter. Less damage to the filters. That's the entire game. And your fork is one of the very few places where you actually get a vote. Let's begin. The first snack is one I recommend to nearly every kidney patient. And when I ask whether they eat it regularly, almost all of them say no. Red grapes. And I already know the objection, because I hear almost every single week. Grapes are full of sugar, and I'm trying to control my blood sugar. Stay with me, because the answer is much more interesting than a simple yes or no. Red grapes contain a natural compound called resveratrol. You've probably heard about it in connection with red wine. But what the wine label never tells you is that the resveratrol found in whole grapes is far more useful to your body than anything you'd ever get from a glass of alcohol. And alcohol is the very last thing a struggling kidney needs more of. Inside the kidneys, resveratrol helps calm something called oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is the cellular wear and tear caused by unstable molecules known as free radicals. In damaged kidneys, this wear and tear happens faster than it should, slowly creating more scarring in the nephrons, year after year, layer by layer. Resveratrol acts as an antioxidant, helping to slow that destructive process down. The skin of the grape adds another layer of protection. It contains a group of flavonoids called quercetin and anthocyanins, the same pigments responsible for the deep red and purple color of the grape. Early research has linked these compounds to reduced protein leakage into the urine. If you've ever been told that you have protein in your urine, or you've noticed your urine looking unusually foamy in a toilet, that foam often represents protein slipping through filters that should have kept it safely inside your bloodstream. And then there's a benefit that's especially critical for kidney health, one that those articles about red wine almost never bother to mention. Red grapes are naturally low in potassium. A half-cup serving contains only about 88 milligrams of potassium. Compare that to a single banana, which packs more than 400 milligrams. For someone living with stage 3 or stage 4 kidney disease, that difference is enormous. Damaged kidneys have real difficulty removing excess potassium from the blood. When potassium levels climb too high, they can interfere with your heart's normal rhythm. That's why finding a fruit that is naturally sweet, satisfying, and still gentle on your potassium levels is both rare and genuinely valuable. Now let's talk about the best way to eat them. Choose fresh, whole red grapes. Wash them thoroughly. Store them in the refrigerator. Eat about half a cup, which equals roughly 15 to 20 grapes, as a mid-morning or mid-afternoon snack. And here's the tip I give my own patients that almost nobody ever teaches. Pair that half cup of grapes with a small amount of protein, such as a few unsalted walnuts or a small piece of low-sodium cheese. The protein slows the absorption of the natural sugar into your bloodstream, allowing you to benefit from the resveratrol without causing a sharp spike in blood sugar. There are 2 mistakes you need to avoid. First, do not drink grape juice instead. Juicing removes the fiber and concentrates the sugar into something your blood sugar simply won't appreciate. Second, do not reach for raisins. Drying grapes into raisins dramatically concentrates their potassium, up to around 750 milligrams in just a quarter cup. That transforms a kidney-friendly food into a kidney problem in a handful. And one more thing, choose red grapes, not green. Green grapes contain far fewer of those beneficial pigments. In this case, the color is part of the medicine. Now let me ask you something. Has a doctor ever told you to cut back on protein because of your kidneys? If so, I want you to listen very carefully to what comes next, because getting this wrong can hurt you in 2 completely different directions. Too much of the wrong kind of protein forces a struggling kidney to work harder. But too little protein of any kind causes you to lose the muscle that keeps you standing, walking, and protected from dangerous falls. The second snack strikes exactly the right balance. Cooked egg whites. Here's why egg whites are almost in a class of their own for someone over the age of 60 with kidney concerns. When your body breaks down protein, it produces waste products. One of those waste products is urea, which appears on your blood work as BUN, blood urea nitrogen. A kidney that's already struggling has to work even harder to remove that urea from the blood. Years ago, the standard advice was simply to slash protein intake across the board in order to reduce that workload. But that advice quietly created another serious problem. People over 60 are already losing muscle every single year through a process called sarcopenia, the gradual, age-related loss of muscle mass. Cutting protein too aggressively accelerates that loss. And here's the twist that surprises even some physicians. When you lose significant muscle mass, your creatinine readings can actually appear to improve, not because your kidneys are getting better, but because you're producing less creatinine in the first place. A frail body that's vulnerable to dangerous falls is far more threatening than a lab number alone can ever show. The smarter solution has been sitting right in front of us all along. Choose a protein your body can use almost completely, one that leaves behind very little waste. That is exactly what egg whites provide. Egg whites have what's known as the highest biological value of any dietary protein. In simple terms, your body uses nearly all of it, leaving behind very little waste for your kidneys to clean up. Less leftover waste means less strain on those nephrons. And for someone whose BUN is already elevated, that's meaningful, measurable relief. There's another important advantage, especially for people with stage 3 or stage 4 kidney disease. Egg whites contain almost no phosphorus. Phosphorus is a mineral that damaged kidneys struggle to remove from the blood. As phosphorus builds up, it weakens bones and hardens blood vessels. And here's the key. Nearly all of an egg's phosphorus is concentrated in the yolk. By eating only the whites and setting the yolks aside, you get premium quality protein with almost none of the phosphorus burden. Here's the best way to prepare them. Scramble 2 to 3 egg whites in a small amount of olive oil without adding salt. Use fresh herbs like parsley or chives for flavor. Or simply hard-boil whole eggs and remove the yolks before eating. If you buy cartons of liquid egg whites at the store, read the nutrition label carefully. Some brands add significant amounts of sodium. Choose one that contains less than 100 milligrams of sodium per serving. The biggest mistake I see is someone eating one lonely egg white and calling it a snack. If your goal is to preserve muscle, and it absolutely should be, you need approximately 10 to 15 grams of protein at one sitting. That usually means 3 to 4 egg whites. One by itself won't get you there. One important caution. If you're living with advanced kidney disease, stage 4 progressing towards stage 5, your protein requirements become highly individualized. Please work with your own kidney specialist to determine exactly how much protein is right for you. But for most people in the earlier stages of kidney disease, smart protein choices like egg whites are a benefit, not a threat. Now, the third snack is probably going to surprise you. It surprised about half of my colleagues too. Potatoes. The very food that nearly every kidney diet handout in this country tells you to cross off your list entirely. I'm going to tell you to put them back on. And the reason comes down to one preparation method that has been sitting in kidney nutrition textbooks for decades, but almost never reaches the patients who need it most. Potatoes are usually restricted because they're high in potassium. And that's absolutely true. A medium-baked potato can contain well over 900 milligrams. But potassium has one characteristic that most people never learn. It dissolves in water. Potassium is water-soluble. That means you can physically remove a large portion of it before you ever take a single bite. Kidney dietitians call this technique leaching. And here's exactly how it works. Peel the potatoes. Slice them into thin pieces, about 1/8 of an inch thick. The thinner the slices, the more surface area is exposed to the water, and the more potassium you pull out. Place the slices into a large pot of warm water, and let them soak for at least 4 hours. Halfway through the soaking time, drain the water, and replace it with fresh warm water. Then, after 4 hours, drain the potatoes completely, rinse them thoroughly under running water, and cook them in fresh, unsalted water. When done correctly, this process removes approximately 30 to 50% of the potato's potassium. That potassium leaves the potato and stays behind in the water you throw away. Now, let me be clear. It doesn't remove all of the potassium. A leached potato still contains potassium. This is not a free pass to eat unlimited amounts, but it transforms a high potassium food into a moderate potassium food that many people with stage 3 kidney disease can safely enjoy, with their kidney specialist's knowledge and approval. Yes, eating plain crackers would be easier. I understand that. But here's what I've learned after 2 decades of watching people try to follow restrictive diets. Maintaining quality of life on a kidney diet is one of the biggest reasons people actually stick with it long enough for it to matter. A potato is warm. It's filling. It's easy to chew. It's genuinely satisfying in a way that a rice cake or a celery stick simply never will be. When people feel constantly hungry and deprived, they abandon the diet entirely. And abandoning the diet causes far more damage than a carefully prepared potato ever could. Here's how I recommend preparing it. Take 2 small potatoes. Leach them exactly as I described. Boil them in fresh unsalted water. Then lightly mash them with a drizzle of olive oil, a little fresh rosemary, and a squeeze of lemon juice. Limit yourself to about half a cup per serving. There are 2 major mistakes to avoid. First, do not microwave the potato and assume you've accomplished the same thing. Microwaving cooks the potato, but it removes none of the potassium. The potassium stays trapped inside. The slicing, soaking, and boiling steps are absolutely essential to the process. Second, do not let anyone tell you to replace the potato with a sweet potato because it's supposedly healthier. For the average healthy person, maybe. But for someone with kidney disease, that's a completely different story. A medium sweet potato contains more than 500 milligrams of potassium. Unless you prepare it using the exact same leaching process I just described, it is not the safer option. A kidney diet and a general healthy diet are not the same thing. Confusing the two can lead to real harm. Before we continue, I'd like to ask you for one small favor that truly helps keep this information reaching the people who need it. If you're finding this helpful so far, let me know your age down in the comments below. And if you know your most recent creatinine level, or GFR number, include that too. I read those comments carefully, and they directly guide what I cover next. And if you could take just a second to tap the like button, it helps the algorithm share this with more people over the age of 60 who are frightened by their lab results and have no one sitting down to explain what those numbers actually mean. That's all I ask. Now let's keep going, because the final two snacks are ones that most people have never even connected to kidney health. The fourth snack is one I recommend to nearly every kidney patient I work with, regardless of their stage of disease: cauliflower. And the reasons go much deeper than what you'll find written on any standard kidney diet sheet. Let's start with the basics. Cauliflower is naturally low in potassium, containing only about 150 milligrams in a half-cup cooked serving. It's also low in phosphorus, low in sodium, and it's a strong source of vitamin C and folate. That's especially important because kidney patients, particularly those on restricted diets or dialysis, frequently become deficient in these water-soluble vitamins without realizing it. But here's the deeper story, the part you won't hear while walking through the produce section. Cauliflower belongs to the cruciferous vegetable family, alongside broccoli, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. These vegetables contain a natural compound called indole 3-carbinol. Inside your body, it gets converted into another compound that researchers commonly refer to as DM. Research suggests that DIM helps reduce inflammation by influencing one of your cell's primary inflammatory control systems, known as the NF-kappa B pathway. And that word, inflammation, is absolutely central to understanding why kidney disease continues to progress over time, even in people who feel perfectly fine. In chronic kidney disease, a low, persistent, smoldering level of inflammation is one of the main driving forces behind continued nephron damage. It's one of the key reasons creatinine keeps climbing year after year, even when you're taking your medications exactly as prescribed. Now, I want to be careful here and not overstate the evidence. Research on DIM and its direct effects on kidney tissue is still in its earlier stages. I'm not telling you that cauliflower alone will lower your creatinine number. What I am telling you is this: reducing that underlying chronic inflammation is one of the fundamental strategies for slowing the progression of kidney disease, according to kidney specialists at the National Institutes of Health. And cauliflower is a genuinely safe, nutritious food that supports that effort without adding potassium, phosphorus, or sodium burden. There's another benefit worth discussing here, and it connects directly to something that might be quietly wearing you down every single night: those frequent trips to the bathroom. Cauliflower is rich in choline, a nutrient that helps support the health of your kidney's tubular cells. These are the specialized cells responsible for concentrating your urine and reabsorbing water back into the body. When these cells don't function well, your kidneys produce larger amounts of weaker, more diluted urine. And suddenly you're getting out of bed at 1 in the morning, and again at 3, and sometimes again at 5. The research connecting dietary choline directly to that specific symptom is still developing, so I don't want to overpromise. But the biological mechanism makes clear sense. And cauliflower is such a safe, well-tolerated food that there is very little downside to making it part of your regular routine. Now let's talk about the best way to prepare it. One of my favorite approaches is what I call kidney rice. Take raw cauliflower florets, place them in a food processor, and pulse until they resemble grains of rice. Microwave for 2 to 3 minutes without adding any water. Then finish with fresh herbs, a squeeze of lemon juice, and a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. It's warm, filling, satisfying, and takes almost no effort. Another excellent option is to roast the florets at 400 degrees Fahrenheit with a light coating of olive oil and a gentle sprinkle of garlic powder until the edges turn beautifully golden. The natural sweetness that comes out during roasting makes it taste far better than you'd expect. The biggest mistake to avoid is buying those bags of frozen cauliflower that come already covered in cheese sauce. Take a look at the nutrition label, and you'll often find enormous amounts of sodium and phosphate additives hiding in that sauce. Both are extremely hard on damaged kidneys. Instead, buy plain fresh cauliflower or plain